Hi, welcome to Women of Worth Wednesday on this very special and somber day with many of us waking up to the news of the passing of our prophet, President Monson. I'm joyful and emotional and grateful to have so many of us together at this time to share thoughts, and I hope that on these comments today you'll share where you're watching from, but also any memories you have of President Monson, because I would love to make sure you always are able to communicate, connect, and share on these Women of Worth Wednesdays, these WOW events. Once again, thank you, High Five Live, for allowing me this opportunity to host these events, and I'm grateful for the guests that we've already had on in this new year, and more guests to come, and conversations. So I'm grateful to have an opportunity today to share some thoughts that feel really, in tune with what was going to happen. I was praying and pondering, as I always do, about what message to share with you and what thoughts to share with you, and I was pretty clear by Sunday that I knew what message it was going to be, one of support and giving support in the new year. And then in waking up this morning and learning of the news of the passing of our prophet, President Monson, it just felt so relevant. So I'm going to share a few thoughts that I had originally thought of, and also a personal experience with President Monson that our family had. The thought that I wanted to share today has to do with this plant behind me, and for those that can see it, it looks pretty symmetrical, and like kind of perfectly symmetrical, actually. And what you can't see, and maybe you can see if you zoom in, but this plant really isn't symmetrical at all. There are a couple of branches that are kind of crazy, and it was growing out of control, and they were flopping everywhere. And so over the weekend, I totally decided to use some, twine and brace the branches so that they would be together. And the thought that came to me as we consider New Year's resolutions and reflect on the legacy of President Monson is the support that we need to give and ask for in this coming year. So as you considered what goals you wanted to work on, I wanted to invite you to consider who you could ask for additional support from. This plant looks this way because there's some twine supporting it. And none of us get through life without asking for, needing, and relying on support. And I feel like President Monson was such a great ambassador of being a Samaritan. He often said that he wanted to be someone the Lord could count on. And I wrote down the quote because I didn't want to get it wrong. It says, "And I always want the Lord to know," this is what President Monson shared, "I always want the Lord to know that if he needs an errand run, Tom Monson will run that errand for him." Don't you love that? And I was thinking about how the world could completely change if just the membership of the church, but in the world, if we followed those promptings, those little nuggets of thought that comes to stop what we're doing and text someone, write a note, reach out. I had this experience last night. I was coming home and I saw our postman in the dark delivering mail, and I had a prompting to do something for him. And I don't always follow that prompting, but I almost argued myself out of it, and I followed through. And I probably gained more from the encounter than he gained from what I tried to do for him. And I think that as we read all of these tributes about President Monson, the things that we will always learn from those times he spoke from the pulpit, but how he lived his life, more importantly, was that he followed promptings, and he didn't wait to have the Lord bonk him on the head. He did share from the pulpit once where he ignored a prompting and the regret he had in doing that. And so I think his legacy is to listen to God and follow those promptings. He reports that showing up to a meeting with church leaders late, and he said to those in the meeting, I'm sorry I'm late, my wife needed me. And I love that. So as I was thinking about a scripture example of that, I thought of Alma and Amulek. I love the story of their friendship, because Alma was just downtrodden and discouraged and frustrated, and he almost gave up, right? And as he left the city after being totally persecuted, totally hungry, and really downhearted, the Spirit said, go back. He had the prompting, go back. When he went back, he met this future best friend, Amulek. And Amulek was able to just give him physical comfort, emotional comfort in a way that allowed him to go forward and do his mission. And they partnered and became great missionary companions. So I think of how Amulek was the support, like this plant here. As you consider what you want for this new year, consider being support to someone. So when the thought comes, as President Monson always taught us, follow that prompting. And as you consider your list of goals, consider who could support you. I have some great twine support in my life. People that I know are the ones I can go to when my branches are like heavy and I am feeling insecure and I am not sure I can go forward. They're there to help tie me up and strengthen me in a way that allows me to recenter. And so I would invite you to consider being that support, but also asking for support, which I think is often harder to do. I wrote a book called The Decision That Changed My Life that came out last January, so a year ago. And on the front cover, as on the title page, is a quote from President Monson: "May we ever choose the harder right instead of the easier wrong." And I think of all these great quotes that are being shared on social media today about our prophet. But I think probably my favorite, other than the decision to always make the harder decision, usually ends up being the greatest payback and gift in my life, is I look back, I think about how all the harder decisions have led to the greatest blessings. So as you consider this new year, consider asking for support and giving support, following those promptings that we all have. They're little thoughts or moments of, should I do this? And if it's good, if it's a thought of good, of doing something good, don't minimize that. Follow that. Because I think what would Alma have done if Amulek hadn't followed his prompting? But also, don't be afraid to make the harder decisions this coming year. I think sometimes the hardest decisions we make sometimes are to stop things and start things, right? But also to reach out to people that may have hurt us. And I in closing, just want to share one of my favorite quotes from President Monson is, "Don't let a problem to be solved become more important than a person to be loved." And so as this coming year starts and we feel renewed and excited about hope and a kind of a clean slate, and we consider all these goals, maybe health-wise or financial or in our careers or with our families, consider some resolutions to offer support this year. And also maybe to reach out to someone that maybe has been hard for you to connect with, and see if you can, instead of focusing on the problem, focus on how to love them. And that is really one of my favorites from President Monson. And thank you again for those of you that have joined us live and posted your feelings and love for President Monson. Please continue to do that, and where you're joining us from. And I hope that this message and my plant will be an example or an image for you to carry with, that sometimes we have no idea what people are needing. And maybe on the outside it looks like they're perfectly symmetrical, like everything in their life is put together, but they are so needing support, or they have support, and that's why they're able to show up the way that they have. And so consider being supported. Ask for the help that you need. See the weak areas of your life and reach out and ask for that support. And then also do as President Monson did so beautifully, right? He was a distant cousin of ours. And when my son, who's serving a mission in Zimbabwe, received his eagle, oh gosh, he sent this tender letter to my son congratulating him. He's a big scouter. We know that about President Monson. I apologize for my emotions. He sent a little pedigree chart to show how they are related. And he signed this congratulations letter to my son, cousin Tommy. And I just think what a tender heart he always led with, and what a beautiful legacy he left us with. So much to consider and ponder as this new year begins, on how we can love people and be late for things because someone needs us, and consider how the Lord may need us to run an errand for him today. So if you have a thought like I did last night and you almost pushed it out today, maybe in honor of President Monson, you'll just follow that thought. Send a card, a letter like President Monson did to my son, and follow promptings to stop and visit someone that you know may be lonely, or send him a text today. I think what greater honor could we give our prophet than to reach out and love someone, more importantly than solving any problems today. So my love and best wishes to all of you for the new year. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for sharing these videos. We're tucked right here in the middle of the day on Wednesday, and so all your sharing has really blessed this community of High Five Live, but also especially the Wow Women of Worth Wednesday, which we really do want to connect with you and know where you're watching from, and see your thoughts and prayers and feelings about President Monson today. But please share this video with someone today that you love, that you care about, that you want to make sure that you know that they are of worth in your life, especially a woman in your life. And thank you, High Five Live, again. We love High Five Live and being a part of this group. And thank you to President Monson, to his family, who have sacrificed so many years to his service to our church and to the world. We're better for Tommy Monson walking the planet. And all my love and best, and I apologize for the emotion, but I know many of you are celebrating this life today of our prophet, and I celebrate with you. And we'll see you next Wednesday at 11 o'clock Utah time. And thank you again. Give support to someone today. Thanks so much.